Yes, it's one of those days where I, a grown man, not only scream about video games made for children, but toys for those games made for children. So yesterday, Nintendo announced a new amiibo for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. A beautiful looking one, I must say, of Zelda and Loftwing. It immediately caught my attention, and they also released a video for it that discusses its functionality in Skyward Sword HD, and that's where I have a big problem. If you're someone who hasn't played Skyward Sword before, the game takes place, unsurprisingly, on land and in the sky. Now, to transition between the two, you have to go to specific points on the map. You can sort of think of them as like fast travel in some games where you actually have to go to a location like a train station or something first to travel to another point on the map. This amiibo will give you the option to skip all that. You can tap the amiibo to immediately switch between land and air on the fly, no pun intended, whenever you want. As just a basic feature, I think this would be welcomed by many as a quality of life improvement to the game. Now you don't have to spend as much time running around and getting to these points, but you're going to essentially lock that quality of life improvement to the game behind an amiibo paywall. I've talked about this in the past. While I like amiibo, I like collecting them, I think they're cool, I do not think you should have significant elements of a game tied to them, like game modes or features. We've seen this with like the Wolf Link amiibo, as well as Samus Returns with the fusion mode. When it comes to stuff like that, it feels like you're taking something significant out of the game and tying it to this figure that many may not want. And you have to pay this premium because you have to have this physical figure to get access to this game content. Like, just because you want to play a fusion mode in Samus Returns, that doesn't mean you want to buy the figure that allows you to play fusion mode. I maintain that I think amiibo unlocks should be tied to things like cosmetics, small maybe power-ups and stuff like in a Mario game or something like that. Certainly nothing that makes you feel like you're really missing out on something significant, which I feel like this is a fairly substantial new feature. And whether or not you want this in the game, that's a separate issue. I'm sure there are purists who don't like seeing these types of changes in remasters. People who, if it was included in the game, may not use it or would want it to be an option. That's a totally different discussion. The point I'm trying to make is, regardless, these types of changes, these types of additions, should not be locked behind any paywalls, really, but certainly not an amiibo. And when you think about it, I've talked about this on Twitter, charging for this honestly reminds me of what are often referred to as convenience fee microtransactions in like free-to-play and mobile games, where they get you to pay money to skip the more tedious parts of the game. That's pretty much exactly what this is. It's more tedious to have to actually go to these points, and you can skip all that now if you pay the amiibo fee. Especially since it even works in dungeons. I mean, even in a dungeon, at a moment's notice, you can just be like, peace, I'm out. And obviously, unlike free-to-play games, it's not like Skyward Sword was built around this, okay? It's not like it's overly tedious and they made it this way to get people to pay for an amiibo to skip it. But when these things happen, it does make me worried about similar uses in future games. Like if Nintendo is willing to basically sell you this sort of convenience feature here, what's to say they won't do that in an upcoming new game and build things around it? I could see it already, like, oh, Breath of the Wild 2 has an amiibo that unlocks you the gold sword that never breaks, so you don't have to deal with weapon breaking the entire run that so many people had issue with in the first game. And by the way, it's going to cost you $20. Also, weapons break twice as fast in this game as the first game, so you really might want to grab that amiibo, guys. Have fun. It's definitely a slippery slope we've already seen many other companies go down. And so I think it's worth worrying about when we get indicators like this that Nintendo could be headed in that direction as well, and call them out. And it doesn't stop there, because while yes, they are charging for this feature, the question then becomes, well, how much? How much is this figure going to cost me so I can have access to this quality of life improvement? Well, you might not like that answer either. At the time of this recording, I haven't seen any pre-order listings go live here in the States, but Nintendo Life mentioned that it's up for pre-order on Nintendo's Japanese website for 2,750 yen, which is about $25 here in the States. as they also mention amiibo are normally around 15 bucks here, so this is quite the markup. Now, as a collector, this may be worth it as sort of a deluxe amiibo. I mean, effectively, you've got 2 characters on there, and the quality looks to be superb. All the feathers and loftwing in that look awesome. So the amiibo itself, I think, may very well be worth 25 bucks. But this is again where you run into issues with that functionality for people who aren't into the amiibo, who aren't collectors, or they don't want Zelda ones, whatever. You may be asking them to pay $25 to buy this figure they don't even want so they can have access to this simple feature of the game. Almost half of the cost of the damn game just to be able to transition between ground and sky whenever they want? That's absolutely ridiculous. There's no excuse for it. There's no reason something like this, again, should be tied to any type of, microtransaction DLC fee, but certainly not an amiibo. As I said, you want to have this unlock a new tunic for Link, maybe give him some arrows or something, fine. Because that stuff's not game-changing. This really is, and in a way where it's clearly pay for convenience. You're paying for less tediousness. And defenders will tout their typical garbage. It's not that big of a deal. If you don't like it, don't buy it. That's my favorite one. Like, what does that even mean? Oh, don't like it, don't buy it. Like what? So I can't criticize something I don't like? Just shut up and don't buy it. It's the most worthless response to criticism, and I see it all the time. In my opinion, I said this on Twitter too, don't like it, don't buy it, translated to people with a functioning brain, means I don't have any real argument against your valid criticism of this product. Please stop it. That's what you really mean. That's what you're really saying, right? You've got nothing against the criticism, but you want everyone to be a fanboy shill like you. Sorry that that's not the world you live in. And once more, you gotta call this crap out as it comes before you're getting games with multiple amiibo that unlock different features, and all of a sudden a $60 game is over $100 if you want to play it properly. Like, we're not even talking about extra content like DLC, we're talking about basic features here. Just insane to me. Maybe in Breath of the Wild 2, the bow can be locked behind a $20 amiibo. If you don't like it, don't buy it, just play the game without the bow, duh! And not to mention, on top of the cost, we know there's a rarity factor in here with amiibo. Now, some amiibos end up being rare, some end up getting discounted and are peg warmers on the shelf, but I think something like this amiibo has a very high chance of being rare. I mean, it's from one of Nintendo's most popular IPs, so there's definitely going to be demand, and while it has the higher price point, that also may mean they make less of them. So, of course, it's too early to tell how that's going to play out, but we could have a situation where these things are fetching double, triple the price on eBay, and then it's like, oh, now we're just asking you to pay $75 to go from the ground up into the air whenever you want. No big deal, just more. It's just more than the game. God. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna cut this video off before I get too fired up and sweaty over this video game toy. Let me know your thoughts on this new Skyward Sword amiibo in the comments. Do you like the idea of locking basic features and quality of life improvements behind these figure paywalls? How about when they have a $25 price tag? As always, I'm the Shy Guy, Johnny Zakari, and thanks for watching.